on your lap, and that's how you lost your purity. And you came and told us it's a mistake. You didn't know you were fighting. If you had known you were fighting, when he put his hand on your lap, you would have organized his face with a slap.
Welcome to Reverend KESIENA TV. In this channel, you'll be listening to edify spirit-filled video that will be blessing your soul, that will engulf your spirit life with an impact that will increase your realm with God. We love you and we love you to come back for the edifying word of God. Thank you.
What worship is not what we do in a church service when we take 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes to sing songs. I've taught you before that worship is how you live on a daily basis. So your worship does not begin when you enter into a building. Your worship begins every morning that you wake up from sleep. Every time you receive the gift or the lease of life, as long as you still have life, you still have breath in your nostrils, there's a demand from the realm of God for you to be a perpetual creature of worship. I went further to explain to us in this house that when you now begin to talk about the context of worship, everything we do within the church space is part of our worship. So your worship in service or in church or in your denomination does not begin when the choir starts to minister. Everything we do in our lives, everything we do in the church space forms part of the modicum that we consider worship. So for the Christian, singing songs of praise and worship and thanksgiving is part of worship. For the Christian, giving is part of your worship. So when you give an offering, when you give a tithe, is part of your worship. For the Christian, fasting is part of your worship. It's part of your worship. It's abnormal for you to be joined to Christ and you eat perpetually every day of the week. Eat perpetually every time of the day. In fact, show me a Christian that has not learned how to live a fasted life. I will show you a Christian that is vulnerable and most likely riddled with compromise. If you don't know how to sacrifice your belly, there are many areas of your walk with God that you will sacrifice on the altar of pleasure. The key to becoming a creature that can stand against the attractions and the allure of the world, sin, and Satan is that you will be a creature of fasting. You will know how to shut down your belly. So fasting is part of your worship. It's part of your worship. Sacrifice is part of your worship. Service, that is serving the will of God as an individual, serving the will of God in a denomination, is also part of your worship. And the epitome of your worship is what I like to call obedience. What did I call it? So a genuine creature of worship before the Lord is one that lives in perpetual obedience to Him. Is a key block of your worship. It's a key block of your worship. So when we are talking about prayer, prayer is also part of your worship. You cannot be a creature of worship if you do not know communion. You don't know prayer. So prayer is part of your worship. So as you go about your daily engagements, as you go about your daily dealings with God, it becomes abnormal to find somebody who says they are a Christian and they don't feel a consistent hunger to pray. It's abnormal. Just as it is abnormal to find somebody who says they are a Christian and they don't have a perpetual, consistent hunger for the Word of God. In fact, these two critical items in your worship life are part of the indices we use to check your spiritual health. To determine if an individual is spiritually healthy, we check their prayer life, we check their word life. If we find out that in your prayer life and in your word life, you are inconsistent, or you are not hungry and passionate about it, it's a sign that you are spiritually sick. In fact, even in the corporate operation, because if I was teaching you the operations of God, for instance, maybe I'll teach that one day. There's something called the operations of God, how God deals with men in the visible realm. In the operations of God are individual. The operations of God are corporate. And by corporate, we mean that in the church and in your spiritual clan. Let's leave it. And then the operations of God are territorial. So the operations of God are individual. The operations of God are corporate. And when we speak about corporate, we are talking about the church and your spiritual clan. And the operations of God are territorial. So the same holds in the corporate expression of God. If you want to check if a church is healthy, look at their commitment to prayer and accurate dispensing of the word of God. A sick church is a church that abandons prayer on the one hand, or a church that abandons prayer to just a select few individuals. Because you see, in church life, it is possible for the entire church to be prayerless. It's possible. Sure, you know that one of the major problems of the church in modern day is that our fathers, and you see, even when I was praying today, I was telling the Lord that how I greatly honor the fathers. Many of them made huge sacrifices that we are enjoying today, even though we may not agree with many things they are doing now. You can't take it from them that they sacrificed for Jesus. And then many of them genuinely served him to the place where their ability could handle. Are you still with me? But you see, the abnormality here is that the fathers, they went to the mountains. They paid huge sacrifices and they found God. But when they found God, they came and then they have built a system where those who follow them can never find God. So those who follow them have to perpetually depend on them. So if you go to a congregation and you have one man who is a champion, a general, and everybody else is a dwarf. So the father has to prophesy, the father has to intercede, the father has to spoon feed, the father has to be everything. Many of them never saw their father hold microphone and lead prayer for 10 hours. Meanwhile, these men, when they found God, that is how they grew into God. But now that they have found God, they say, stay. What we have is enough for your personal life. So the entire church is prayerless, or the entire church is engaging in a prayer system that revolves around the things that you don't need God to have. So they are praying for food, praying for clothes, praying for basket, praying for car, praying for all these things. So this is all they do.
Welcome back from that video and the word of the man of God. I know you are blessed by the word that the man of God has spoken. Please, in any way you are touched, in any way you've learned one or two things, please do well to meditate on them and pray, as the Lord will gonna be helping us together as we journey this journey of Christianity. May the Lord give us understanding. Please do well to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification button so you'll be notified whenever we have a video like this. Thank you. We love you.
May the Lord give you understanding.